Now, the project that investors are likely most focused on of yours is your cholesterol drug, 301012, which blocks one of the primary genes for making lipids and moving around in the body and plaquing up people's arteries. How big is the potential market? I mean, there seems to be a lot of controversy, particularly for the first indication that you've already applied for.
I think there's some confusion, but I think the commercial opportunity is in the several hundred million to $1 billion range for the first indication. And then beyond that, as we move to the next indication, which is substantially larger, I think the drug can be a significant major blockbuster drug.
And you're partnered with Sanofi Genzyme, and this first market is a rare, what we'd call an orphan market. It's people really with the genetic disease, familial hypercholesterolemia, FH. And how many people like that, or people with similarly high cholesterol that can be addressed, are there in this first FDA indication that you're filing for?
Well, I think in the US and Europe, 30 to 50,000 patients, and then don't forget that the rest of the world also experiences this disease, and much of the rest of the world can also afford drugs such as mifepristone. So I think the market in Asia and South America and Central America can be quite substantial as well.
And how do you go from that ultra-orphan pricing and ultra-orphan market? I mean, I know this is partly Genzyme's problem, but it's your baby. How do you go from that to the broader market of millions of people that you see later on who have severe high cholesterol but not a clear genetic disease?
Well, as you know, we planned from day one a staged development process, which I think is the right way to develop drugs. So in the first stage, we bring the drug to the patients who need it worst. Then as we get safety experience, we plan to expand to another group of patients. And then ultimately, we hope that we get to patients who are at slightly lower risk. We know the path to the first two. The first indication, registrations are in progress, and we're confident that we're filing a strong registration, and we're confident the drug will be approved. The second step just requires additional safety experience, and so we're very confident we have a path to that. The third step requires probably outcome studies, and so that would be a much longer process. But even at that stage, we're only talking about a tiny fraction of the patients who take statins. This drug is to be used in patients who have severe lipid disorders forever. It's only a question of how severe. And they're so severe that they can't be managed even with high-dose statin therapy.
What about liver tox? I mean, that's been liver toxicity. That's been one of the worries that has kind of dogged this project. And it becomes a bigger worry as you move into those bigger groups.
Absolutely, and that's why you want much more long-term safety before you expose patients who have less cardiovascular risk. So we're talking about treating people who have fatal cardiovascular disease. And as we progress down that risk profile, the level of risk goes down, and so the time to their fatal cardiovascular event is a bit longer. But I think we understand a great deal about the liver safety of this drug, and to some extent, I think in an effort to be very forthcoming, I think we've confused people by perhaps presenting more safety information that could be easily digested. Drug's reasonably well tolerated. We know that with continued dosing, the drug continues to work. The liver safety signals, the minor changes in liver enzymes reduce, and in the small fraction of patients who get slight increases in liver fat, they either stabilize or actually decline, just as we saw in animals. So we're very, very confident that the liver safety of this drug is really in hand, and the safety profile is attractive.
So you don't think there are going to be cases of fatty liver that either really restrict this to people with dire need or prevent the drug from being used?
Based on the data we have today, both in animals and man, and remember, we've treated a reasonable group of people out 3 to 4 years. No, I don't. I think what we see is that the liver needs to adjust to the reducing LDL production. Remember, these people have been making tons of LDL for many, many years, and the liver needs time to adjust, and as it adjusts, it then re-equilibrates, and we don't see continuing increases in liver fat, and we see no evidence of inflammation. Many, many people walk around with liver fat that's elevated. 40–50% of people with diabetes walk around with liver fat that's elevated. What you have to worry about is whether you get elevated liver fat and an inflammatory process, and we have not seen any of that in animals or man.